I put a little plug for a mono jack, and then I soldered onto just behind the switch here, which you can CW all day with the mic, with the hand mic. But if you wire it up with a key and plug in your key, you can then actually key out CW, which you get about 20 watts out.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Josh, KI6NAZ. I was asked by Radioddity to take a look at a new radio, the QT80, a 10-meter, 80-watt radio that has some interesting features you can unlock by cracking open the bottom of this case here. This is kind of an interesting radio because it looks very familiar to another radio that I've already taken a look at and praised it for being a really nice 10-meter monoband inexpensive radio. This is about $299. This does 80 watts, plus it adds not only single sideband and AM, it has FM, and it promises CW. It also has, of course, memory channels like you'd expect, so you can load different repeaters on here as well, which we'll try and test out, although the 10-meter situation here in Southern California is not as great as it is in other areas. This deserves taking a look at because, while yes, it looks similar to another radio I've already reviewed, this has some pretty cool, interesting features that put it above and beyond. Let's take it to the tabletop and take a look.
Now, a couple of things to mention off the top here is that this comes out of the box as a 10-meter only radio, which for most people is totally fine. For technicians, this is totally great, and that's how you should use it. However, I'm overlaying on the screen the jumper that you need to switch. If you switch this jumper, so take it off of the pins it's on, move it over, and then put it back down, so that center pin is still being used, but you're using the other pin, if you catch the drift. You're then going to turn on the radio while holding the MEM and band buttons. So MEM and band, if you hold those down and turn it on, you should see a screen that says HF band, and then you can change it to ham band or HF band. You want to leave it on HF band if you want to unlock all the features. Otherwise, if 10 meters is only good enough for you, leave it there. Then push the function button to confirm. Hold it down. So what this just did is kind of opened up frequencies, right? So for amateur radio operators, you're still required to transmit on the bands that you are licensed for. So after you do the modification to give you 15, 12 meters, and 10 meters, the controls are a little bit different than what you might expect on like an HT or an HF ham radio, for instance. What's like an HT is this power on volume control. If you turn it, that turns the radio on, and that's also your volume control. So you can adjust that here, right there. Over on the left-hand side, that's your RF gain. You can turn that off. You can add to it. We're not hearing anything. Nothing but quiet time out here on 10 meters. And then on the outer ring, this is one of those ones that has a pin in the middle and then an outer ring. Now you can go in and adjust your power output, and we just want to leave that all the way up, right? Or, no, of course, we adjust it to what we need. And then on the right-hand side control, another one that has an outer and inner ring is the squelch control. So we'll go ahead and turn the squelch off. There's HF noises or noises on the HF band. Let's try that gain again. That drops your gain all the way back. And if it's off, you're getting full noise out. We're getting about 3 S units of noise. Clarifier is something you only really want to mess with if you're talking to somebody on the air and they're off frequency. So leave it centered so the white line is on the top. But if they're off a little bit and you don't want to change frequencies, you want to stay on the frequency that you're transmitting on, you kind of just give this little zhuzh here until they sound a little bit better, and then you can bring it back and forth depending on where they're at. Now, there are a couple of really handy little things we can do here, and I should probably walk you around the radio a little bit because it's a little bit different than what you might expect. But basically what we're looking at is I have this set up into VFO mode. If you hold down the band button, that's going to take you to a series of numbers that you can click through, band related, right? Band numbers. So you'll see 09D, and this is a bank of different channels, if you will. This is set up to have a number of ham radio channels or just open frequency channels, I guess you could call it. So 28.400 is 10 meters. If we click band again, right? 29 is not amateur radio, but 24 definitely is. That's 12 meters. If we hit band a couple more times, 21. Okay, now we're down into 15 meters. If we've done that that little change on that jumper switch. But I don't generally find this helpful. So what I do is I hold down band, and now I'm in VFO mode. Now with VFO mode, if you pay attention to that little arrow right there, and you click it, the number starts flashing, and then you can go in here and you can go to whatever it is you want, 21, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Let's go through that again, and we'll go down to 400. And there's your technician upper sideband space. And if we want to see how we're transmitting, we'll use the top button here on the mic. We'll select SWR, and if we just whistle, got a 1-to-1 SWR, which is kind of nice. And if we click it again, leave it at TOT, and we do the same thing, that's your RF meter that you're getting power out. Now I am transmitting into a dummy load, which makes it a little bit easier for this testing. Controlling this radio is actually kind of interesting. There's a function button, and that gives you like top level controls. So if we click function, and then we push in the VFO button, we'll now see a 0, 1, and then something that says busy. And if we click to 2, it's repeater, and we can go through a series of immediate controls. And there's 7 options. So these are your common options. So if we go to repeater and click the button again, and then start rotating, we can now change this to plus or minus repeater offset. I leave it to off because we're not doing repeaters right now. So I clicked it, and then if I hit any button, it'll take us out, and there's no repeater showing here. But if we go back and click the button, go to repeater, let's turn the plus side on, hit a button, and now it says repeater. And if we hit the button, we should see a bit of an offset. So if we do it again, let's get it out of that because that's going to confuse us later. Turn it off, and now hit a button, and it's gone. All right, so that's a handy little function if you use repeaters. Obviously, you might likely have a memory option or a memory saved for those repeaters, but just keep that in mind. But if you hold the button down, the function button, now you're in the deep F menu. I'm on option 35, which is the programmable function key on the hand mic here. We're not going to mess with that right now because I happen to like the default setting, which is the ability to change what's on the screen, so that SWR readout, your power readout, whatnot. But, oh, wait, it's gone. What happened? Well, if you don't do anything in 5 seconds, it turns off. So let's go back in. So DTMF, yep, it's got DTMF tones. It can reset, sure. Key beeps, so that's the first thing. We just got to turn that off because it's pretty obnoxious with the key beeps. And then there's a number of things like step, mic gain, mic type, because you can change the electric, dynamic, which is pretty cool. I don't even know what this was default to. I think it was electric. And we can go through a number of different options. There's actually a pretty serious amount of options that are in this thing, which is pretty nice. Timeout timer is 6:05. That's great. We can leave that alone. Color. Here's something. Let's change this. Ooh. I really like the green. I think that pops. So we're going to stick with green for a little bit. Emergency channels are channels you can pre-program to switch to if you hit the emergency button, which is right there. Transmit repeater is going to be what you want your offset to be when you're transmitting in repeater mode. So let's set this back to... There we go. You got to work through all the numbers to lock it in. Vox control, Vox speaker. Nice. Okay, so there you go. You get the idea. All right, so walking around the top buttons here, if you hit mode, that changed your modes of operation. So we just went into LSB mode, which you can see there, as well as you have PA output. So this is literally a public announcement speaker. If you plug a speaker in, it should talk out of it. We should be able to test that. Now, unfortunately, this isn't going to come through very well, but I do have a speaker hooked up in Kilo India 6 November Alpha Zulu. If the speakers are not what you want like an amplified bullhorn to be able to do a proper PA. But anyway, that works if you have that going. And then CW, so if we transmit, I'm using the hand mic to do that, so I could use it as a straight key. Right? And you can actually modify this microphone to put a little jack on the side, and that jack will take a straight key. No iambics, there's no keying devices in here, it's just a pretty straightforward device, but actually kind of cool that you could hypothetically do CW with this, which is pretty sweet. And yes, there is actually side tone controls. If we go back into CW, we can change this to, it decreases the volume as you change that. I think the frequency is the side tone. I could be wrong. Let me see. Yeah, side tone. Pretty cool. That that works pretty well. And let's give it the beans. What if we crank up the volume all the way? Nope, that's not going to do it. Let's give it some more beep. Oh my God. That is loud. You need a radio for Long Island CW Club to transmit and have side tone for Howard to hear? That's pretty loud. Scared me. I actually hit the radio. Now, of course, there's a scan function, so if you click it, it'll start scanning through frequencies. Let me stop that for a second, and then we'll go back to the memory channels, and if you hit scan again, it should start going through all the channels listening. The channel set is going to really be dependent on what you have this radio set up to do. If you are using this for CB, for instance, right, you'd set this with the channels you need there. As amateur radio operators, I don't really use channels that much on HF, except the caveat is if it is a 10-meter repeater. And yeah, those exist, and yeah, you would want to save off a memory channel for that. So again, take it out of VFO or take it out of memory to VFO, and now we're back to, there you go. And we can go right back into USB. Kilo India 6, November Alpha Zulu. Again, we're on a dummy load. Don't worry. Adding and deleting frequencies from your memories is pretty easy. Let's say we want to add 28.4, a good frequency for 10 meters. Let's hold down the memory button. Now, you can adjust which channel you want. Let's just go 99, sure, and hold down memory. And now it's locked in, and you can see it's now memory channel 99. So let's walk through the process of actually loading a memory channel in this for, let's say, a 10-meter repeater. It turns out we have one. It's local to me. I have gone through and set the frequency to 29.66, and you can control that, right, with the VFO. Click the button, find the number you need to change. And then this T-squelch button, if you hold that down, in case it wasn't abundantly clear, you do need to be in FM mode to use CTCSS tones or not. So make sure you got that set. And you can turn it off and on as you need to. It's going to take you into the quick function menu. We don't want CCDS. We want to go up to TCDS, so it's just a transmit tone. We want to click CTCS, and there's DCS and off, so let's go to CTCCS. CTCSS, geez. And then change that to whatever the frequency needs to be, so 107, etc. Now in this case, this repeater is a negative offset, so we're going to click on function, repeater, minus, and then click a button to lock that in, and we should be able to transmit. Well, for the sake of argument, let's assume I hit that repeater. Let's go ahead and save that frequency by holding down memory, and I'm going to save it to MEM99. I'm going to hold it down again, and so now I'm on MEM99, and it should be offsetting. And we get that little CTCS tone, and we should be all set. On power draw, I'm getting about 14 amps on upper sideband and about 10 amps draw on FM. And on AM mode, we see about another 10 amps of draw. Some power tests here. Let's give a little upper sideband. Now, oddly enough, that's what I saw when I did my first round of tests with a dummy load. But then when I went with my resonant antenna, kind of a different result. Let me show you. Kilo India 6, November Alpha Zulu. So that's a lot better than 80 watts when it's into a resonant antenna versus the dummy load. So does that mean my dummy load might be a little screwy? Maybe, but you could probably draw a distinction between the two, 90 watts to 70 watts. 80 watts, I guess, between friends. Now, mode's different. No difference between lower sideband. CW. So interesting thing about the CW, should mention this. If you pop a little hole right here in the bottom, and I put a little plug for a mono jack, and then I soldered onto just behind the switch here, which you can CW all day with the mic, with the hand mic. But if you wire it up with a key and plug in your key, you can then actually key out CW, which you get about 20 watts out. And then FM should be about 45 watts out. Kilo India 6, November Alpha Zulu, end test. Now, fair warning, the speaker is underneath the radio, which, depending on how you set it up, can be not that great. But it does have an external speaker port. Here's about the only signal I could find at the time of recording.
Now, to wrap things up here with this radio, I gotta say I don't fully understand the Chinese market for manufacturing radios. Obviously, this has the similar look of the AT6666 by Anytone, and now that the Anytone AT6666 Pro is out, which I believe is almost very similar to this radio. I'm not sure where the differences are exactly. I'm curious how the marketing and branding work. Like, can you have a radio manufactured in China and then it can be sold by two different companies? I don't fully get it. This has an FCC logo on the bottom of it, and yeah, I'll just say it. It says T4K-AT6666 Pro with a little Radioddity logo on it. I don't know what's going on there, guys. Hopefully you know more, and if you do, post in the comments and tell me your thoughts about this radio. I'd love to hear it.